Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Force with some more Elder Scrolls Online coverage. In today's video, I'd like to talk with you about all the different things that there are to do in this game. You know, once you leave the starting zone, I know I've said this before, but once you leave the starting area, the game really opens up and becomes about exploration. There's a lot of different icons and a lot of different locations to see, and I'd like to help you better understand what those icons mean and what you can expect when you get there. So what we're looking at here is a map of Auradon. This is the area after the tutorial zone for the Aldmeri Dominion. Start off here in the south of the zone, and you basically start off in this dock and you go into this coastal town of Volkogard. Now, quick look at the town. I can sort of show you what all these different icons are. The scales essentially represent a marketplace. You'll find NPCs there that sell various goods, sometimes armor and weapons, food and drink. Things like cooking fires can typically be found at or around these marketplace areas. We've got places for crafting. Here's the Guard's Forge with blacksmithing and clothing. We've got alchemy and enchanting here, and then woodworking over in this location. The two guilds in this game at the moment, which are the Fighters Guild and Mages Guild, these will both be represented in the major cities here in the game. And then a lot of times we've got what sort of functions as a town hall. A lot of quests in that town will be represented there, but also typically at or around the town hall, you can find bankers. So the bankers will be for your personal as well as your guild bank, and this is a very important space to utilize as soon as you get access to the bank. Put some of your extra stuff in there because you fill up your inventory very quickly in this game. Now, there are vendors that will allow you to purchase more bank space, and also the bank vendors allow you to add more space to the bank slots as well. We've got this Shrine of Mara here. I didn't really find any use for that. I might have missed something though, but yeah, there's the Shrine of Mara, and we've got a stable location over here. This is, of course, as you would expect, where you will eventually buy a horse. Now, a big thing, notice right here, is this way shrine symbol. So the way shrine system, when you are at a way shrine, it allows you to travel to any other way shrine that you've discovered in all of Tamriel. So any way shrines anywhere that you've had access to, you're able to go from one way shrine to another. You can also, from anywhere in the world, go to any way shrine that you've discovered just by clicking on it. Now, the difference is when you're at a way shrine, you travel to other way shrines for free. When you're in the world, there is a gold cost. And also, when you travel to a way shrine using a gold cost, if you then try to travel to another way shrine shortly after, just by clicking on it instead of going from way shrine to way shrine, it costs a higher amount of gold. So let me show you this. I'm actually going to click on this here. We're going to travel to that way shrine area. And then if we were trying to click on another one, then there's going to be a high gold cost associated with it. And essentially what happens is that high gold cost decreases over time. So you notice now it's costing 470 gold. However, just from this way shrine, I am able to go to any other way shrine for free. So it's a pretty interesting system. It stops people from quickly porting from one way shrine and then going to another end of the world without actually doing it from a way shrine location. It's also important to keep in mind gold is a very high commodity in this game. I've been playing for 20 plus hours, and at the moment, I only have 12,000 gold. That's not enough to buy your first horse. Your first horse is nearly 18,000. I think it's like 17,500 gold. I'm still not even there after 20 plus hours. Yeah, kind of crazy. Okay, so yes, the way shrines. Now, what about all these different icons all over the map? Well, you notice this from Skyrim, if you played that game. I would assume you have. These caves here, not quite like the caves in Skyrim. The caves in Skyrim were typically a place for exploration and story and loot. These don't appear to be the case here in this game. Those are represented by these torches, which we'll get to in a second. The caves that I've encountered have been story-driven areas. They are, in fact, caves, but they've been story-driven areas. And, you know, just an NPC in there for you to talk to, basically, is what I've experienced. Again, I've only had one cave to experience, but what I typically associated caves with from Skyrim are represented by these torches. These torches are dungeons, which come in three forms. There are solo dungeons, public dungeons, and then group dungeons. So what I've been informed of so far is that every area will have one public, Toothmaw Gully is the one in this particular zone, and one group instance dungeon. All these other torches, these are all solo focused dungeons. So what's the difference? Well, the solo dungeons are typically having mobs, they're standard mobs, and they're in groups of 1 to 2, sometimes 3. The public dungeons have a lot more bosses. The solo dungeons will typically have one boss at the end of them. The public dungeons have a lot more mobs, typically 3 to 5, the groups of 3 to 5. There's mini bosses and big bosses, and they're also meant for a larger group of players to go through. And then, of course, there are the instance group dungeons, where this is the 4-man group that you roll through with lots of different bosses. There's a storyline, all sorts of stuff like that. Also, stories in the solo and public dungeons. In fact, a lot of times in these, if there isn't an NPC directly to tell you a story, you can find sort of emergent storytelling within the dungeon by reading notes left on the ground by inhabitants of it or people who are invading it. It's actually very, very interesting. One of the dungeons that I went to, when I first went into it, I read a note, and it was this guy who just was talking about how much he loves spiders. And then as you go through, you're killing some spiders, and you're noticing more notes, and he's grown increasingly... it's just increasingly intense in his love for these creatures. And then at the end, as is the case with all these dungeons, there is a boss fight. You end up killing the guy who was writing those notes. And the most depressing part of all is that he has a note right by his body that says he has visions of someone coming in and killing his spiders, and he's going to try to protect them. And it really made me sad, because that someone was me. So yeah, even if there aren't quests there where someone will tell you a story, there will be some form of emergent storytelling in all of these dungeons, which I have found very, very cool. Now, beyond the dungeons, we have these portals here. These are portals from Molag Bal, where he's trying to invade your world. He'll call down these 3 chains that will slam into the ground, and basically he starts sending out Daedra to try to invade. And these are just little events, very similar to the Rift system in the MMO Rift. You go there, there'll be a bunch of things for you to kill, and then eventually there'll be an end boss for this portal, which if you defeat him, then the portal subsides and you're all set. You stop the town from invasion. I don't know that there's any actual threat to these, other than the fact that they are places to go through this event and kill a boss at the end. I haven't seen anything where if these portals stay down for a set amount of time, like it spreads out to the world or anything. They're just little events. And speaking of events, we've got a lot of icons which more or less represent the same thing. So we've got icons like these towns. We've got this tower over here, this beacon. We've got these ruins. Towns, ruins, lighthouses. They're all sort of lumped into the same thing. And what that is this area is in trouble in some form. You need to save it. So whether it's a coastal town that's being invaded by pirates, or whether it's a town that has a sickness that you've got to try to cure, or whether it's ruins that have ghostly spirits that have awoken from the dead, they're all sort of lumped into the same thing. These are areas that need assistance, and once you get there, there will be NPCs that tell you what is going on that's wrong and ask you for help. And then you help and you fix it. So yes, any of these ruins, any towns, any towers, any lighthouses, any castles, those are all, again, sort of more or less just a quest hub. That's a good way to think of it. They're pretty much just a quest hub. Skulls and Crossbones. These are really cool. I haven't dove into them too much because there's not a lot of people playing right now. But the Skulls and Crossbone areas are outdoor elite mobs with boss fights. Really awesome. Why? Because they're incredibly tough. Even right now, as a level 18 archer, I have an incredibly difficult time at these skull and crossbow areas when playing solo when they're level 7. These level 7, I consider them elite mobs. That's what I'm going to call them. These level 7 areas, the rangers are beasting me. I can actually quite easily deal with the melee characters because I have a lot of kiting capabilities. But the ranged characters, the archers, the casters, they have so much health and do so much damage, it just seems impossible. Even as level 18, these level 7 zones, I can't do solo, which I expected to be able to do once I out-leveled them, but I can't. It's just too tough, and it's crazy. It really is crazy to me. So what's really exciting about these is beyond the instanced group dungeons, these appear to be where the biggest challenge will be had in this game, and you absolutely positively 100% will need a group And even, I couldn't imagine, like, even a group of 2 people, if I went in here with 2 people at level 7, I would still imagine it to be a difficult situation. So I feel like these areas do require big groups. It varies, though, because I've cleared areas. For example, this area had a spider boss that was a melee character. I was able to kite him all by myself, no problem, and I killed him. That's why it's filled in, because it's complete. And that's something else to keep in mind. When things are filled in, they're complete. When they are not filled in, they are incomplete. So for example, there is an event taking place over here at the Southern Beacon. I have not completed it. That's why it's black instead of filled in as white, which means you have finished a particular thing. So that's the difference between those 2 things there. And let's take a look. I don't know that there's actually much else that I missed. These symbols right here just represent cities. Sometimes there'll be cities that you can actually inhabit, like over here at Skywatch. I go into Skywatch, there's a bunch of different things, different vendors and all that stuff, crafting stuff, the different guilds, banks, things like that. But there are some cities, like this city up here in First Hold. This is just quest driven. This is part of the main storyline. It does actually have representation for the 2 guilds, the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild, but that's it. There's no NPCs for you. It's not a town that you can readily inhabit, essentially. And then there's also the eyeballs. These eyeballs are just points of interest. Basically, all the ones that I have found have not had quests that you can pick up there, but other quests that I have in the world have eventually led me there. So it sort of brought me to the point where when I see one of these eyeball icons, I don't run towards it unless I already have a quest for it, because I know there won't be anything for me to do there. Also, I actually feel like, yeah, actually, I think there might have been sky shards around every single point of interest that there is on the map. In fact, looking at all these eyeball locations right now, I think that might be the case. I think that they all have had sky shards by them. But sky shards are just something you'll find just by playing anyways. You don't really need to go digging for them so much. Just completing all of the quests, or not all of them, but almost all of them. I found all the sky shards just by playing the game and not doing anything special for them. But that is essentially it. Again, we've got the way shrines. We have got, oh, actually, the last thing that we missed here are the Mundus Stones. The Mundus Stones, we've got the lover as well as the lady here. This is increase either to armor or spell resistance, I believe. These are the same stones that you aligned with, say, in Skyrim, where they will give you, you can align to 1 at a time, and it gives you a permanent buff as long as you're aligned to it. So yeah, these will be scattered all throughout Tamriel. You find the buff that you like, and you align with it. And I think that does it. Taking a look at all the different icons and all the different things that there are to do here in this game. As I've talked about in prior videos, once it opens up and once you really just dive into the exploration and trying to get immersed in the world, this game just has become really, really fun. I've been so into it, and I'm really having a great time right now. So that's going to do it, guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more Elder Scrolls Online coverage coming up in the future. And as always, keep watching and keep owning.